Welcome to the Trust Factor Radio, bringing you interviews and insights to unlock the power of the subconscious mind to create authority, credibility, and trust. With your host, the Authority Architect and best-selling author, Neil Howe.
Hello, welcome to the show. This is your host, Neil Howe, and we are on the Trust Factor Radio. Obviously, we're talking about trust, and one of the issues with trust is having people peek at your screen. So when you're in a public place looking at sensitive documents on your smartphone or your computer, such as invoices and contracts or statements from financial institutions, there's no way to know who can see what's on your screen. So my guest today on the Trust Factor Radio believes that confidential information should stay confidential, and that's why he created Smart Eye technology for your eyes only. Welcome, founder and chief disruptor of Smart Eye technology, Dexter Caffey.
Thank you, Neil, so much for having me.
Well, it is very important to talk about this stuff. Cybersecurity is a huge issue. There's a lot of fraud and a lot of money being lost by companies every day and individuals as well. So give us a little bit of background on what Smart Eye technology is and what it does.
Well, what happened, Neil, I was in Israel about a year and a half ago, and I was actually at a cybersecurity event. And I was sitting next to a guy talking to him, just like I'm talking to you right now. And so what happened, as we were talking, I noticed when I looked at his laptop screen, I could see documents. I saw Word documents, I saw PDF documents, and I said to myself, why should I see any document that's on this guy's laptop? It's none of my business. And I said, what if we could create an app called Smart Eye Technology that would shut off if you looked at my screen while I had a document up? And that's how Smart Eye Technology got started. So we've been literally doing that for the past year and a half. Our software is now up, still in the prototype phase, and we're moving towards the production stage over the next couple months, and we'll definitely take it from there.
Well, it's certainly a great idea because, you know, when you are in an airport or a public place and you're trying to do something confidential, you just never know who's going to be looking over your shoulder. So, you know, we're going to talk about the actual technology in a minute, but who is this really designed for? Who's it made for? Is it made for companies? Is it made for individuals?
Actually, initially, our focus is companies right now because companies share a lot of sensitive documents, whether they're large enterprises or small to medium-sized businesses. They share a lot of documents that are very confidential. Right. And as a result of that, you don't want everybody peeking at those documents, whether there's invoices, because right now, one of the big things now, you know, just going on is invoice fraud. So when you send an email to me saying, hey, Dexter, here's our invoice for $10,000, what happens is a hacker typically gets in between there and say, hey, Dexter, here's our new invoice for $10,000. Disregard my first email. Make sure you send it to our new wiring instructions. That's the hacker. So what we do at Smart Technology, when you send documents that invoice through Smart Technology, it literally comes directly from you to me directly through our app, no email.
Okay, so and that is secure. You know, so what kind of companies are going to be sending invoices? Like you said, who are you targeting right now? The big companies?
Yes, right now we're talking to large enterprises. We're also talking to large businesses as well as medium-sized businesses and some smaller businesses as well. But the enterprises really have an interest in this because they have a lot of high sensitive information, and so we're talking to several of the large enterprises, global enterprises around the world right now.
And that information is just going back and forth.
Absolutely.
So many communications that need to be protected. So let's talk about how you actually protect these people. You know, tell me about the technology of Smart Eye.
Well, what Smart Eye is that when you look at a document, it'll recognize just your face. And if I walk behind you and say, hey, Neil, what are you looking at? I'm looking at your screen. It'll automatically shut down because it recognized my face. And it says, this face I don't recognize, so we're shutting the document off. So it completely blocks your screen and says, warning, multiple viewers.
Oh, well, that's certainly a good way to have somebody looking away. You quickly look over your shoulder and they're probably going to see that notice as well.
And that's happened. That happened to me when I was at the airport a few months ago. I was looking at a document in our Smart Eye Technology app, and I knew there was nobody behind me at this restaurant when I was at the airport, and my notice came up that said, warning, multiple viewers. And I said, wait a minute, there's nobody behind me. And I turned around, this lady was looking dead at my screen.
Really?
And she turned her head fast to act like she wasn't looking at my screen. After I noticed that she was looking at my screen, she quickly turned.
Yeah,
Yes.
well, that has a desired effect then. So the facial recognition is one of the things that SmartEye does. Is what other metrics does it use to shut off?
Okay, that's a great question. Initially, whenever you look at a document and someone else comes behind you, it'll shut off. But when you're sending someone a document, let's say I want to send you a document, I could require your face, your fingerprint, your voice, your iris, as well as what we call behavioral print to be recognized first before my document opens up to you to ensure that this is Neil who's opening up my document.
So you've got the fingerprint and you've got the facial recognition. Now, the one that intrigued me was the iris. You're looking into the eye.
Absolutely. And we'll have the iris later on this year that'll be available for everyone to actually use. So it's the iris because the iris actually has six times more identifiable characteristics than your fingerprints do.
Okay, well, that is certainly, we see these in all these futuristic films, like everything is done with the eye. So it's great that we're going to be able to have that kind of technology in a device. Now, speaking of devices, what kind of devices is it going to be able to be used on?
That's a great question. It's going to be able to be used on mobile. So any cell phone, any laptop that you have, as well as and if you have a tablet, it'll be using that, or a desktop computer as well. So it'll be on every device.
Excellent. So it is an app, right?
Absolutely, it's an app.
So it's available on Apple and Android?
It will be shortly. We're still in our prototype phase, but over the next several months, it will be available on those platforms.
Okay, so we talked about the biometrics. Now we've got the facial recognition is one, the fingerprinting, the voice, and then the iris as well. So that's a lot of security.
And we have one more called behavioral print. Behavioral print is where we require you to print, let's say, 4 letters. Let's say the letter W, the letter S, the letter T, and the letter Z as an example. And so SmartEye knows how you physically hold your phone. It knows how you touch your screen, and it knows how you physically move your hand gestures to verify if this is you, if this is Neil or not. So based on that, it'll allow you to access that document or not in that print behavioral biometric that we have.
Well, that seems pretty secure to me. What other companies out there are doing anything like this?
Well, on this scale, there's not too many at all. On this scale, there are a couple companies that may allow you to access a document by using a biometric, but it's so small, that's not their main business. And we're literally we've created a new sector in technology, which we call technology for your eyes only, because SmartEye is technology for your eyes only. Nobody can see that doc, but just you.
Well, that is really impressive. But talk to me about some of the stats maybe around businesses and just how much fraud there actually is and why this is such an important piece of technology.
I'm glad that you mentioned that, Neil, because in 2015, when it came to wire fraud, meaning let's say you want to buy a home and you put a down payment on your home. What's happening? Hackers are actually getting inside of those emails and they're pretending to be having the wiring instructions. And so if you wanted to wire that $50,000 or that $100,000 to that institution, that it goes into the pocket of the hacker because they intercepted that email. And in 2015, we had about $122 million of that loss in 2015. In 2019, we had close to $2 billion of that being lost to those hackers accessing and receiving that wire instead of the institution receiving that wire.
I imagine the banks would be pretty interested in this because, the banks insure some of these things. So they've got to be looking pretty deeply into this kind of technology as well.
Absolutely. And we're talking to several banks right now as we speak.
Yeah. Well, SmartEye is founded by yourself, but you do a lot of the technical stuff in Israel. I hear that you're over in Israel a lot. What makes you continue to go over there?
Well, our developers are in Israel. That's where we sit down on a monthly basis now, and we kind of go over our strategy as far as our technology. We're implementing new technology inside of SmartEye all the time to be more in front of the curve as far as what's going on out there. So a lot of technology in Israel is very heavy. So we rely on the talent that's over there in Israel to help us to make our software what it is today.
Right. And of course, you're already, I mean, you're still in the beta stage, is that right? With a lot of technologies that you have. What ideas or what do you see in the future for Smart Eye?
Well, I think one of the biggest things that a lot of companies will use Smart Eye for is actually requiring their suppliers and vendors to send their invoices through Smart Eye instead of email.
Mm-hmm.
Because right now there's a lot of institutions who still receive their invoices directly through email.
Well, that's what I use.
Right exactly.
It will be Smart Eye in the future.
Absolutely.
So I understand also that you have an event coming up in Israel. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, the event is actually on, it's from January 27th through the 30th. And it's one of the largest technology events, cybersecurity events in the world in Israel. It's going to be in Tel Aviv. There'll be over 18,000 people in attendance. You have a lot of major speakers who will be there. I believe the Prime Minister of Israel will be one of the speakers who will be there. So we're going to have different sectors that we'll discuss inside of technology. And I'll be speaking in the area of AI and big data, as well as privacy. And I'll be one of the guest speakers as well on that stage.
Well, cybersecurity is definitely an issue that we need to talk about and need to address. It is a massive problem, and I'm glad, Dexter, that you have come up with this amazing product, Smart Eye Technology. Where can people find out more about it?
They can simply go to our website, smarteyetechnology.com. So smarteyetechnology.com.
Excellent. Well, when it comes to trust, you want to make sure that your information is protected. So Smart Eye Technology will do that for you. Dexter Caffey, thank you very much for being my guest in the Trust Factor Radio today.
Thank you, Neil, for having me on your show.
And to our listening audience, if you like what you hear, hit that like button and share, and we will see you next time.
You've been listening to the Trust Factor Radio with Neil Howe. To learn about the resources mentioned in the show and to listen to past episodes, go to thetrustfactorradio.com. To get a copy of the book, The Trust Factor, go to thetrustfactorbook.com. If you are ready to act now and build your authority, credibility, and trust, schedule a consultation with Neil at theauthorityarchitect.com.